And I don't know if you remember this, but
what?
We almost didn't get the vote right there. What they do a lot of times is,
you're right.
if there's an inquiry, they
Hi guys, I'm Tyrone and welcome back to Harrison Family Farm. Today I have Angela joining with me as we talk about how we got our 5 acres for free here in Kansas City, Kansas.
That's right, guys. Hey, Tyrone, thanks for having me on the channel. It's been a while.
You're down a whole human.
Yes, I'm down a whole human. We have our cute baby over there who we're hoping stays quiet throughout this video, but he may make an appearance. It just depends, as you might hear him. But yeah, we're going to be talking about how we got our land for free, 5 whole acres, you guys. So we're super excited to be finally doing this video. We've gotten a lot of questions on our Instagram, which if you're not following, it's the Harrison Family Farm. Also, we have a TikTok, which we'll start posting there pretty soon. So yeah, let's jump into the video.
All right, guys. So in order to really tell you how all this came about, we have to take it back to the very beginning. What I had to start with was what our needs were. I was fortunate previous when I first got Beyonce that I had land available to me. I did not own it, but I just had access to it. And in that, I kind of developed animals, but that land was coming to a situation where I was no longer going to have access, and I needed land of my own. And so looking for land, it was seeing that it was very expensive if I was going to buy it traditionally. And then I got so creative and so I guess motivated to find what I was looking for. I looked so hard that I came across a program through our county that actually offered land for free as long as you improved and developed on the land.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit more about that process. So once Tyrone got the vision in his head and then found the program, he let me loose on kind of figuring out exactly what we need to do in order to qualify. So our county actually offers a program where they incentivize people to revitalize the land. So that's probably going to be your best bet in your county. This is not just something that's specific to Kansas City. I've seen it in different states and different counties, so make sure you check that out. But that's probably going to be your best bet, is looking for a county that has areas of distress where they want to revitalize that city. So that's what we found.
The name of the program, guys, is the Land Bank, and it is known by that name in other places as well, although it could be known by something else, but I have seen it by that name in other places. That's where I started my search, and I will say to you that every land bank is not built equally, and the requirements and criteria are not the same across the board. Different places have different goals, and so I'm not guaranteeing you that through your land bank you'll have free land. I'm just saying that that was the process we were able to take advantage of where we are.
So like Tyrone mentioned, every county is going to be different. Ours actually met our needs. Tyrone found the exact land that he wanted to purchase, and so we were able to put together a plan for the county there. And so what I mean by plan is essentially we had to submit an inquiry to our county about regarding the land that we wanted. We had to say what our use would be for it, and from there the county will review that inquiry. They will determine whether your plan is feasible and then decide whether they want to move forward or not. And once they decide whether they want to move forward is when the real work starts happening. Once we identified the property we want to purchase, we then submitted their address to the county, and they let us know that the property was available, which we already knew because Tyrone had done a ton of research on what was out there and what was still kind of owned by the land bank. From there, the county asked us to submit a package kind of giving a little bit more detail about our plans for the property. So some of the things on there were the address, what type of building would be on the property, kind of how many square feet, any sort of building dimensions, things like that, just kind of a rough estimate, and also a picture if we had one of what it would look like. Additionally, they want to know what the timeline would be, so they want to know when the project would start and when it would be completed. And the reason why the land bank wanted to know this information is because they had to submit that information to the land bank advisory board, who would either approve or deny our purchase of the land. So that was super important. So we put together that really quickly. Luckily for us, we had already been looking into builders because, again, Tyrone had a plan and he had already kind of had been on how are we going to get this land, and once we get this land, how are we going to put a house on it. We already had house plans to submit with our inquiry, so that was really, really good.
So like Angela mentioned before, the land bank has a board of directors, so to speak, or a board of advisories that have to then approve the plans we submitted, which, like for us, obviously they did. And then the next step in that process was for it to be submitted to our county's commissioners that have different districts amongst the county. And so this is a time where anyone who has questions, not only the commissioners but also residents could bring questions that they might have regarding your project, and objections
because we saw those.
Yeah. Lucky for us, we had none. But there are people that need to speak to their projects, that might need to soothe over some of their potential neighbors. So yeah, just things to be mindful of where you want to build and things like that. So yeah, we attended the meeting. They voted. It passed. I think we had a question or two, but we were able to move past those and get by with good graces. And so after that, it was really about for one, informing our builder, and then going to the next hurdle.
Yeah. And I don't know if you remember this, but we almost didn't get the vote right there. What they do a lot of times is,
you're right,
if there's an inquiry, they will delay it. Yeah. And somebody misrepresented what district ours were in, and there's this specific commissioner who's like very passionate about her district because it is in a historic area. Yeah. And so she thought it was in her district, and she was like, no, I have to look into this. Yeah. And Tyrone raised his hand because it was on Zoom, because it was in pandemic times. He raised his hand on the Zoom and he was like, I think that we're not in that district. And luckily they talked about it, they agreed, and we were able to get that approval that day because we were thirsty, y'all, to get this ball rolling.
Because you got to think big picture. It's still going to take years or a year plus for us to get done. So delay us 30, 60, 90 days. We were not trying to have that.
Yeah. And honestly, then we didn't think a year because we went the modular route.
Yeah,
so true. We were thinking 6 months tops. We were thinking 3 months after we got the approval. So yes, you were there in spirit. Okay, so after we got that approval from the commissioner, thank God, the next step in the process is to basically execute an option agreement with the county. So basically the county then gives you an option to purchase the land. So you don't quite have it yet, but you have an option. So it's kind of put on hold just for you.
Angela, right quick, can you speak to what an option is, just briefly, just in layman terms?
Yeah. Essentially, an option is when the seller gives buyer an option to purchase the property, and they kind of, like I said, put the property on hold for you and give you time to do certain things like due diligence. And by that means work with our builder or our architect to make sure the property is even buildable, right? We've only seen it, I think we snuck onto the property once or twice. But that's all. We didn't know anything about the soil about testing, all those things. So that's where you kind of go with your builder to make sure the property is even feasible for you to build on. So during that option period is when we got to do that. And also, they then made us responsible for maintenance. So Tyrone was having to come over here and pick up trash and stuff because people were dumping trash. And we then became
the taxes.
We soon became responsible for the taxes on the property because it's been owned by the land bank. So there's been no taxes. So the county is ready to start making money. So
it's kind of the purpose of the program.
Yes.
If I don't mean to cut you off, but she's bringing up a very good point on why the program exists. A lot of these are properties that have either gone through tax sales, or even death sometimes in properties, the county repossesses them, so to speak, and then it needs to get them back into circulation so that they can then get tax revenue for them. And so, yeah, that essentially is how that works.
Yep. So in the option, there is an option fee. It was a very nominal fee, I think of $100.
Yeah.
And so we had to pay that to execute the option. And from there is when the real work begins, because now we have permission to go work with our builders, to work with our architect, to really get this plan set in motion. So when we executed that option agreement, we actually had to go up to the county and sign an option agreement. And I think it got witnessed and everything. It was very official, kind of like you would at a real estate closing. Yeah. So at that real estate closing, we signed the option agreement, and we also got an option deed. So in that option deed, it basically was conveying the land to us, conveying ownership of the land to us, but with those restrictions. And one of the biggest restrictions on there was we had to build within 365 days. So a whole year we got to build. And if we did not, at the county's option, ownership would revert back to them. So that was super important. And the reason why they transfer you that deed is because you're going to need the deed for builders and lenders to take you seriously. Yeah. If you say, oh, if you guys do this for me, then I'll get free land, nobody's going to take you serious. So our county is really good about understanding that process and transferring that deed, but they also protect themselves by making it an option deed. Mm-hmm. So you don't fully own the land unless you complete the stipulations within that deed, and they're spelled out in
very
the deed.
Directly.
Yeah. That from there, that's like you said, we got the stamp of approval to go ahead and get to work. Sorry, y'all, we had to grab the baby. Okay, now back to it.
So at this point, guys, we had already located a builder, which was a process. And so one thing to be mindful of, I don't know what it's like in your area if you're trying to do something similar, but we did run into headwinds when trying to find a builder to build a single house. And that was another reason why we went the modular way. But at this point, it was time for us to get plans from our builder and then submit them to our county building department to then get a permit approved based on the plans that we submitted to them. And that did get some pushback. I think we did have to resubmit those a time or two with some revisions.
Yes, there's going to be some revisions. And one thing to note on that, because we mentioned plans before we had just very general plans to kind of get the ball rolling. They wanted detailed plans. Like this was going through the building permit process. So the plan reviewers are actually looking to see if this is feasible and whether they will approve you to build. So it was a real process, like Tyrone said. So in addition to the plans that we had to submit with the building permit application, we also had to submit a proof of funds. So like I mentioned before, since we already had technical ownership of the land, this made it a lot easier to work with lenders, but also I wouldn't say it was an easy process.
No.
We talked to many lenders, and a lot of them just weren't familiar with the modular home process, and so they weren't messing with it. Yeah. Or the land bank process. It does make it a little hairy when you have this option deed, right? You don't fully outright own the land because of the restrictions. So some lenders didn't want to work with it. Luckily for us, our builder did have a trusted lender that they worked with that had done this actually, I think once or twice before.
Yeah.
Not the modular homes, obviously they do that all the time, but the modular home on a land bank owned property.
Right.
So that really did help us because our lender was a little familiar with the process. What the county required is to show a proof of funds. We had to have a letter from the lender saying that they would be willing to lend us the amount the build was going to cost. And that is the entire build. That is not just the modular home, but it also was, all of the improvement and dirt work and all that stuff that came with it. So our lender was willing to do that, which really helped get the ball rolling for that package. So just to kind of go over it again, Tyrone, it was the thorough plans.
Correct. Like
we had the blueprints, and then we had the proof of funds. Mm-hmm. And with those, we submitted that to the land bank for the planner approval. And like Tyrone said, there were a few revisions, but we eventually got that approved.
Right. All right, guys. So after we got to the point of getting approval from the county building department, it was really green light go. At that point, I was coming out here on a regular basis, clearing land, cutting trees as often as I could. I'm talking about after work all day, every day. I was under several deadlines, let me add, because it was just the thrill and excitement, purely of doing it and being able to do it. Then I was also trying to get our cows moved. Beyonce and Jay were elsewhere, and so I was trying to get them moved. And then obviously trying to clear for the house as well.
Yeah.
And so
no small feat for a one-man show.
One-man show with one chainsaw.
And moral support from me and the kids.
I mean, they brought me Sonic drinks on a regular basis.
We did.
And they would check on me, but yeah.
If y'all look at old videos, we have like a day where we're out here before the land was clear. Even in the intro, yeah, you can see that,
Yeah, that's where that's from. So, I'm clearing land, and you know, several months go by. We get to the point where
you weren't even there.
And we get to the point where you know, they're getting the bulldozers here, digging out our foundation. I want to say also getting ready to pour the foundation, and just, I mean, we kind of shared these moments with you guys over the time. So there's videos showing that as well. But this is the time things were really getting traction, starting to come together. We're getting more and more excited as the progress happens and the moments go by.
Yep.
So yeah.
Because remember, we have to complete this within a year in order to get the deed. And at this point, we have, you know, we've already started moving dirt. That we have to get it done. And I will say that it did take longer than the year, but our county was, I don't know if they were overloaded or what, but they really did check in. They trusted us. So it actually did go over a year. But what I think with the counties, with any county, they probably just want to make sure there's progress. And there's progress. We even got a couple neighbors digging around, nosing around, calling the county, saying, you know, people have started, you know.
Yeah, they we were making noise.
Making noise and all that stuff. So yeah, they just wanted to see progress.
And they came by. The representative from the county even came by a few times.
Yeah, true.
Scared me half to death. I'm like, who is this guy pulling up on me out here cutting trees?
So they were like, okay, these people are serious. And one thing I think was pretty cool too is that the lender and the builder saw that we were serious too when we came with that building permit. I mean, we did a lot of the work ourselves because we were so ready to get in there, because a lot of times you're waiting on the builder to submit those applications. I had already gotten in contact with the planning committee because for another property we had kind of had a relationship with them, and so we did a lot of the groundwork because we were ready to get it done and we wanted people to see we were serious. When you talk about free land to a lender and a builder, I think they might not take you as serious as somebody saying, hey, we're trying to purchase some land along with, you know, this modular home. Here's our, you know, pre-approval letter or whatever. And so we had to show them that we were serious. And so once we, like Tyrone said, once we got that approval, it was, you know, green light from there. Yeah,
for sure. I'll tell you, like, a lot of looking back, you know, it didn't take all that long, but it took forever going through the process.
It did, and it was stressful.
It was so, like, this is not for the faint of heart. Like, it was definitely some stressful moments. It was definitely some powwow moments. We had to sit down and talk, like, hey, we're going to get through this. The house is going to be completed. Like, and
it's going to be worth it. And it was worth it.
For sure.
So I guess that kind of gets us to kind of the end of the road, and we ultimately, you know, finished the project. If you guys have seen here on the channel, we're sitting in the house right now. And for those of you who've been watching, a lot of you guys have only been outside the house because Tyrone's the one, you know, doing all the stuff outside. But you guys get a little glimpse. We're sitting here in our living room right now. You guys get a little glimpse of what the house looks like. But once you get to the end of the road, you guys, we want to talk about how we got this for free. And that brings me to a good point that we forgot.
What's that?
We forgot to tell them that when we got the deed, we did have to put an escrow down.
So we did.
When we say free, it did eventually end up being free, but we did have to put an amount of money down. I'm not talking about the option fee, and every county is going to be different. Ours was just a few $1,000s that we had to put down, but it's an escrow. Once you complete the project and you get your certificate of occupancy, you then go back to the land bank and say, hey, we got the goods. And then they will start working on the process to get you your refund back. And some counties are faster than others. Ours, we will say, was slow, but by then we were just so happy to have the land and be moving the house. That is something that we did want to make sure we said. There was some money down in it, but we did get that money back.
And Angela's right. Once you get started, that certificate of occupancy is the carrot that you were chasing. Like, that is what you were trying to get after. That is what you're trying to get to. I know our house was hear, assemble, and everything, but we couldn't enter, we couldn't move in, we couldn't do anything, just look at it every day.
Yes.
Until you get that certificate of occupancy. So yeah, that's very important.
Yeah. So one thing to keep in mind is that we did get the land for free. Like I said, once you get that certificate of occupancy, you get your deposit back. And so the land, I'd say the only thing we didn't get back was the $100 for the option. Obviously, realistically, it did cost us something because we had to purchase and build a house upon it. But the benefit of getting free land was just great in itself. Tyrone talked about it in another video. The instant equity you have when you own land, and just all sorts of other things, which we can talk about in another video.
And that's one thing we didn't really mention. Like, we leveraged the land for then part of the down payment for the building of the house.
Yes.
So that's another, I mean, that's the biggest advantage, or one of the biggest advantages of doing a program like this, is that not only are you getting the land for free, but you then leverage it as part of your your deal to then purchase and build your home. So yeah.
So there it is, guys. That's how we got our 5 acres of land for free. So if you guys have any questions, please let us know in the comments below, and let Tyrone know what you want to see in his upcoming videos. And who knows, maybe me and baby boy and the kids will make more cameos if you guys want to see us too.
All right, guys, be sure to let us know down in the comments. Request their smiling faces so they can return and do more cameos. And guys, have a great week. We'll see you on the next one. Be part of our road and journey to 1,000. Like, subscribe, share. Peace.